What's good? It's your boy 2K here. Man, I hope y'all ready for this shit, yo. This video is about to be fire. What I'm about to say is 100% irrefutable facts as to why Vasyl Lomachenko should not be considered number 1, number 2, hell, probably not even number 3, pound for pound best fighter in the world. Now, of course, we got the usual suspects, Andre Ward, Terrence Crawford. And in my opinion, that's not even a fucking debate, Andre Ward's legacy that that he has under his belt still as an active fighter is more than anybody in the sport, any active fighter in the sport to date. So that's an easy pound for pound number 1. If we talk about skill set, I don't think Lomachenko is better than Andre Ward or Terrence Crawford skill-wise, simply because those two guys are the best switch hitters in boxing. Okay, being a switch hitter is a skill that is very rare. Being an excellent switch hitter, there's plenty of switch hitters like Hank Lundy, he's not an A-level fighter, right? He's a C-level fighter who's also a switch hitter. But to be able to master being a switch hitter, and for you dumb motherfuckers out there, a switch hitter is an orthodox and a southpaw fighter. To be able to master both stances, to be able to equally defeat your opponent out of both stances is something that's extremely rare. All right, and that should be rewarded. And then of course you got Terrence Crawford, who's about to be fucking undisputed after August 19th. So I mean, that's not a debate. That's easily number 1 and 2 respectively. So that leaves the last 8 slots, right? Now, I'm not even going to use those two guys to tell you why Vasyl should not be a top 3 pound for pound fighter. But I'm going to use a guy that a lot of motherfuckers don't really know as far as the accolades that he has achieved up to this point in his career. And that's current WBO champion, the Monster, a.k.a. Inoue. Alright, now I've told y'all before I was going to do this video. I said it plenty of times in the past that I was going to make a video comparing and contrasting what Inoue has done and what Vasyl Lomachenko has done, and why motherfuckers seem to gloss over something that Inoue has done way before Vasyl Lomachenko, but praise Lomachenko for the same accolade. You see what I'm saying? It's complete bullshit. And the start of it is a lot of you motherfuckers out there that like to call yourself enthusiasts, boxing pundits, you lack the knowledge. You lack the necessary knowledge to be able to understand what Inoue has done. All right? Which it pisses me off that you motherfuckers actually try to speak your opinion when you don't know shit about boxing under 130 pounds. You know what I'm saying? It's ridiculous. Now, we all know Vasyl Lomachenko is a 2-time WBO champion, right? He started his career at 126 pounds. He beat Gary Russell Jr., which I'll talk about. I'll break that fight down in a minute. Beat Gary Russell Jr., capturing his first title at 126 pounds. Moved up to 130. I also break this fight down too. He beat Rocky Martinez to get his second title in 2 weight classes in under 10 fights, right? Now, Lomachenko right now is 9 wins, 7 wins by knockout with 1 loss. He lost his second fight to Orlando Salido, right? Now, he became a 2-time champion in 2 weight classes in his 7th pro fight. Remember that number. It was his 7th pro fight, right? Now, his best 2 notable wins to date are Nicholas Walters and Gary Russell Jr. Now, there's asterisks next to both those guys, and I'm going to tell you why, starting with Walters. Nicholas Walters was a guy that a lot of people were considering a pound-for-pound fighter or getting ready to become a pound-for-pound fighter after he knocked out Nonito Donaire in the way that he did, right? Of course, that was after Guillermo Rigondeaux. But Donaire was still a game opponent. Shit, he still is a game opponent today, even though he lost to Jesse Magdaleno recently, right? But he's still a game opponent today. But Nicholas Walters beat him when he was more of a dangerous fighter, right? Now, Walters then beats Marriaga. Of course, the guy Lomachenko just beat this past weekend in a bullshit-ass fight that I personally fell asleep on, which I never fall asleep on boxing, but I fell asleep on that one. He beats Miguel Marriaga, moves up. I'm skipping some fights in between, but it is what it is. Moves up, goes to 130, has a draw with Jason Sosa. After that fight, Nicholas Walters was on an 11-month layoff, okay? Now, Bob Arum put him on the shelf because he denied an initial fight with Vasyl Lomachenko. And, of course, Vasyl Lomachenko was offering that magic number, $500K. The same number he offered Guillermo Rigondeaux in a verbal contract, right? He was offering the $500K. Now, me personally, I thought Nicholas should have took that because he wasn't making big-time money at that time. Guillermo Rigondeaux's highest payday was against Nonito Donaire. He made $750K. That's a different story, but we're not going to go into that. But I thought Nicholas Walters should have took the $500K and fought Lomachenko when he was active. He turned it down. Bob Arum pretty much got pissed, put him on the shelf after the Jason Sosa fight, right? Then they reoffered the fight, but this time it was less than $500K. If my memory serves me correctly, it was $200K. YouTube, go ahead and correct me if I'm wrong. And they offered him $200K. Nicholas Walters, being inactive, being on the shelf, getting an opportunity finally after being on the shelf, said, yeah, fuck it, I'll take it. Now, this is the kicker. He took the fight 3.5 months out, right? Now, a standard training camp in boxing is 12 weeks. You got 4 weeks in a month. That's 3 months. He took the fight 3.5 months out. So add two weeks of that, that's 14 weeks, okay? When he took the fight, there was an interview out there. I can't remember who it was. But he gave an interview where he talked about, how he feels he could beat Lomachenko. Pretty much talking a little bit of shit. Dude looked like a motherfucking squirrel who was storing nuts in his cheeks, dog. Nigga looked like he had about 3 or 4 dinner rolls on both sides of his cheeks. You know what I'm saying? That's how fat he was. Then there's sources out there that I respect that got the scoop and reported that he weighed in upwards of 170 pounds when he took this fight 3.5 months out. They fought at 130. That's 40 fucking pounds that he had to have lost within a 12-week training camp. That's fucking killing yourself, okay? That's more than what Adrian Broner recently had to lose when he went down to 140 to face Mikey Garcia. Now, that might be a tad exaggeration that he weighed 170 pounds, but there's no denying that my man was completely out of shape in that fucking interview, right? And it's known around the boxing community that during that 11-month layoff, Nicholas Walters was out of shape. Walters even said it himself, right? So that's the anomaly there. That's the issue there anyway. The variable that a lot of people don't like to talk about when they praise Vasyl Lomachenko's win, right, over Nicholas Walters. Now, Gary Russell Jr., before that, okay, Gary Russell Jr. has had some success since losing to Lomachenko, right? He beat Johnny Gonzalez, captured the WBC 126-pound title. I think he's had 2 title defenses since. He's been looking like a revamped fighter. He's still making some of the same mistakes that he made before Lomachenko and leading up to the Lomachenko loss, but he still looks a little bit better. He's definitely a force at 126, right? But here's the thing, though. I remember all you motherfuckers out there, you Lomachenko lovers, and at the time you were Gary Russell Jr. haters, okay? I can't even call you Lomachenko lovers because Lomachenko was in, his 3rd or 4th fight at the time. I think it was his 3rd fight. I believe it was right after the Orlando Salido loss. So I can't really call you Lomachenko lovers because he hadn't even, stated his claim as a professional yet. And I know you niggas don't watch amateur boxing because you barely know shit about professional. You know what I'm saying? So it was really Gary Russell haters. Now, I remember a lot of you motherfuckers out there all over social media and on YouTube talking about how Gary Russell is an overhyped fighter. I remember that shit like it was yesterday. Mad niggas on YouTube and on social media leading up to the Lomachenko fight were talking about how Gary Russell is overhyped by a lot of black boxing fans. I remember that shit clear as day. Okay? I remember getting in arguments with niggas who were saying Gary Russell was highly overrated. I'm like, I mean, he's a good fighter. He's got some good skill sets. And motherfuckers would be like, nah, you know, he's fast because he's fighting a lot of C and D level fighters, right? So, leading up to the fight, even Las Vegas had Gary Russell as the underdog. The clearly more accomplished fighter, right? Or at least the more experienced. I won't say accomplished. The more experienced fighter, right? Lomachenko was 2-1 or 1-1. I don't remember, right? But the point is he was under 5 fights. And he was the favorite in this fight, which tells you that even the odds makers felt that Gary Russell Jr. was a bit overhyped, right? So, leading into this fight, it's safe to say that the majority of you motherfuckers out there thought Gary Russell was a B- to C level fighter. Okay? As soon as Gary Russell loses to Vasyl Lomachenko, overnight this motherfucker is an A level fighter. Overnight. I mean, it was like niggas had an epiphany. You know what I'm saying? Oh shit, hold up. The Lord just came to me, my brother, and told me that I was wrong all along, and that Gary Russell Jr. is indeed an A-level fighter. Praise Jesus. Get the fuck out of here. I see right through that bullshit. You put your goddamn foot in your mouth prior to the fight. Now you're forced to suck the goddamn toe jam from in between your damn toes now. You said he was a C to B level fighter prior to that fight? Well, Vasyl Lomachenko will get credit for beating a C and B level type of fighter then. Alright? Let's go to Roman Gonzalez, because a lot of niggas like to mention Roman Martinez. A lot of niggas like to mention Roman Martinez. Oh, he's a 3-time champion. Let me tell y'all something, man. Roman Martinez is a B-level fighter. Now, there's a lot of cats throughout the history of boxing who, given the 4 opportunities that you have to becoming a world champion, a lot of B-level fighters have become world champions throughout the history of boxing. A lot of B-level fighters have become multiple champions throughout the history of boxing. I'll name one in a minute here. All right? Rocky Martinez is one of those guys. Okay? Now, let's break down why I feel Rocky Martinez is a B-level fighter. Now, ironically, the 2 guys Lomachenko shares opponents with Mikey Garcia with. Mikey Garcia beat the dust off them niggas. One of them Lomachenko lost to in Orlando Salido. Mikey Garcia fought him. It was I think a 8th or 7th round technical decision due to a headbutt that broke Mikey Garcia's nose. But prior to that, Mikey Garcia floored Orlando Salido 3 fucking times. I think it was once in the 1st round and like twice in the 3rd or 4th round. Okay? The scorecards had Mikey Garcia up by 9 fucking points. You know what I'm saying? There was no way Salido was going to win that fight unless he knocked Mikey Garcia out at the time of the stoppage. Okay? Then you got Roman Martinez. Mikey Garcia knocked him out in the 8th round. Sure, he got dropped in that fight. You know, a lot of greats get dropped. Andre Ward has been dropped. Guillermo Rigondeaux has been dropped. But they are still considered the best fighters in the sport. Guillermo Rigondeaux is the most feared fighter in the sport, despite being dropped 3 times in his career. Once against Roberto Marroquin, Nonito Donaire, and Hisashi Amagasa, right? He's still the most feared fighter in the sport. Niggas don't want to fight him, even though he got dropped 3 times. So fighters get dropped, but it's what you do after you get dropped. And that's exactly what mattered in this fight. Mikey Garcia got up and proceeded to knock Roman Martinez the fuck out, okay? Now, Roman pretty much lost the majority of his big fights, with exception to his third WBO title win against Orlando Salido, right? But then they rematched right after that to a split draw, which the majority of fans, including myself, thought it should have been an Orlando Salido win. Now, the first fight was a Fight of the Year candidate, which prompted the rematch, what ended up being another Fight of the Year candidate, right? But Orlando Salido should have definitely won that fight, which would have made him the WBO champion at 130 pounds, and it would not have given Lomachenko the opportunity to beat Roman Martinez for the WBO title to become a two-time world champion in 2 weight classes, right? So, anyway, breaking down Roman Martinez's title wins, right? Why I feel he is one of those B-level fighters that slipped through the cracks to become a 3-time world champion. His first capturing of the title, he beat a UK domestic fighter by the name of Nicky Cook. Look him up. Now, he beat him in March of 2008, all right? Nicky Cook was the WBO champion after beating another UK domestic fighter in Alex Arthur. Now, Alex Arthur claimed to fame, of course, well after the fact, was that he gave two-time 2-weight champion Ricky Burns his first defeat when he was 13-0, right? He defeated Ricky Burns, I believe, by unanimous decision, if I'm not mistaken. Now, a few fights after that, Nicky Cook fights Alex Arthur, takes a WBO strap off of him, okay? Now, neither Alex Arthur or Nicky Cook ever became world champions again, okay? After Arthur lost to Cook, he never got another title shot, or at least he never became a world champion again and ended up retiring. After Nicky Cook lost that same belt to Rocky Martinez, he ended up retiring after never becoming a world champion again, okay? So that tells you that these guys were just UK domestic level fighters. They were not world beaters, all right? His second WBO capturing of the title was he beat a Mexican hopeful by the name of Miguel Beltran Jr. for a vacant WBO title. Now, a lot of people feel fighting for vacant titles, that's not a real title. I don't really feel that way per se, because if you got the number 1 and the number 2 guy going at a vacant title, I mean, you're still beating one of the best ranked guys in the division, right? Or at least in that organization, you're either ranked number 1 and you're beating the guy under you, or you're ranked number 2, you're beating the guy ahead of you. So I'd still give, cats credit for winning vacant titles, but it's still not better than actually beating a bona fide champion and taking his title off of him, right? But I will, I'll digress. It was for the vacant WBO title at 130 pounds, right? Now, this was Miguel Beltran's second attempt at achieving a belt after challenging, and here's my reference to a multiple champion in this weight class that a lot of you niggas may not even know who he is. Challenging Juan Carlos Salgado, who is a former 2-time lightweight champion. A lot of you motherfuckers don't even know who that is. But he's another one that slipped through the cracks and was able to become a multi-champion in one division, right? He battled him a year earlier before fighting Rocky Martinez, and it ended up being a no contest due to an accidental headbutt in the second round, okay? So after that, I think it was 2 fights after that, or maybe a fight later, he challenges Rocky Martinez. He loses the fight and never gets a title shot again. Now, he's still an active fighter. I think he last fought April of this year. But in his last 9 fights, he's lost 4 of them. So that tells you what level fighter he is, okay? And then, of course, his third claim of the WBO title at 130 was against Orlando Salido, right? That's probably the only significant title win that he has, okay? So you can really say, based on the competition, he was pretty much handed 2 of those WBO titles at 130 and really only fought a legitimate competitor, right, 1 time. And, of course, Lomachenko takes the title off of him, the same one that he got off beating Orlando Salido, right? So those 3 wins right there, which are the best on Vasyl Lomachenko's resume all have asterisks next to them. I just broke it down for y'all. Now, let's move to the monster. Now, this shit right here, if you still can't see what I'm trying to relay to you motherfuckers, after I give y'all the 100% irrefutable facts as to why Inoue should be considered ahead of Vasyl Lomachenko in the pound-for-pound rating system, then you're just biased. You're just fanboys. You're not fans of boxing. You're fans of fighters. That's the fucking problem here if you can't see this. Now, let me say this. I should have said this in the beginning of the video, but I said it now. Fuck it. You know, a lot of people ask me, you know, what's my criteria on ranking fighters on the pound-for-pound list. A lot of people seem, you know, just looking at how they rank these guys, like Teddy Atlas, for example, a guy that I highly respect, but I 100% disagree with his ranking system. A lot of cats will rank a guy above other guys because of a preconceived skill set. Now, what I mean by preconceived is some of these fighters have not been tested properly. I feel Vasyl Lomachenko is one of them. Very, very skilled fighter. I mean, he's a guy that brings Roy Jones Jr. type of athleticism with a young Manny Pacquiao type of footwork into the ring. Something that we generally have not seen in a very long time, right? A combination we haven't seen in a very long time. But that alone does not make you number one pound for pound. I feel, in my opinion, accolades have more of a merit than just skill set alone. There's a lot of skillful fighters out there that a lot of motherfuckers don't know. One of them is Wanghan Minyotin, the 105-pound phenom, who's right now currently 47-0, and it's fucking funny, and it's a testament to the lack of boxing knowledge out there that nobody's talking about how this guy is getting ready to tie Rocky Marciano and Floyd Mayweather's record with the possibility of beating it, right? Nobody even knows this shit, though, okay? Then you got his stablemate, knockout CP Freshmar, very highly skilled fighter at 105 pounds that nobody fucking knows. So just the fact that you lack knowledge of all these highly skilled fighters tells me that you just can't rate a guy high on your list based off of talent or skill level, because you don't even know all the fighters in the sport. You see what I'm saying? You're going off of who the networks are pushing, you know, whose skirt HBO is currently blowing up, right? You're going off of that. Whose skirt the media is currently blowing up. You're only going off of that, right? Now, shit, I lost my motherfucking point. Where the fuck was I at? Oh, yeah. So, accolades has more of a merit, in my opinion, than skill set. Now, you could break accolades down to a subcategory, to two subcategories. You have career accolades, and then you have what have you done for me lately type of accolades, which is actually the motto for fighters who we actually say should be getting opportunities in his career. The motto we use is, well, what have you done for us fans lately? What have you done for the sport of boxing lately? And I use that to rate, you know what I'm saying, as a criteria to rate fighters on the pound for pound list. And I think that holds way more merit actually than career accolades. Because if that's the case, shit, you put Manny Pacquiao in the top 10, who is absolutely not on my list. You know what I'm saying? So, based on, you know, career accolades coupled with what have you done for me lately, being a merit over skill set, Inoue is clearly over Vasyl Lomachenko. The number one reasoning, Vasyl Lomachenko has one loss against a high-volume, high-pressure, cheating-ass fighter. You know what I'm saying? But it's still a fighter style that you have to beat in Orlando Salido. And he has still not shown us that he could beat that particular style. Yes, he's very skilled. Yes, he's one of the most skilled fighters in the sport. But he still has not showed us that he could beat that type of style. Inoue has, though. He showed us he can beat that type of style. Let me break his shit down, you know. Inoue is 13-0 with 11 wins by knockout. Now, He's moved up from 108, skipped to 112 because his younger brother's at 112, and went to 115. Now, this is why I told you to remember that number for when Vasyl Lomachenko became a 2-time champion in 2 weight classes in under 10 fights. He did it in his 7th pro fight. Inoue did it in his 8th pro fight 2 years before Vasyl Lomachenko did it. Now, I've said this before, I'll say it again. In 2014, Terrence Crawford was officially named Fighter of the Year. But not for me. Fighter of the Year in 2014 for me was Inoue, because in that same year, he defeated 2 champions in 2 different divisions to become a 2-time champion in 2 different weight classes in under 10 fights in just his 8th pro fight while staying undefeated, something Vasyl Lomachenko was not able to do. Okay? Let's break it down for a second. Let's go ahead and break this shit down. Inoue defeated in just his 4th professional fight a fighter by the name Ryuichi Taguchi. Now, Ryuichi Taguchi is currently ranked number 3 at 108 pounds by Ring Magazine, right? And he just completed his 6th. Listen to me, people. He just completed his 6th defense of the 108 WBA title last month. Now, Ryuichi Taguchi faced Inoue. He was considered one of the best fighters at 108 pounds. After Inoue defeats Taguchi, Taguchi is still considered one of the best fighters at 108 pounds, even having 6 title defenses under his belt. His last fight was last month, okay? Let's go to when he won his first title, right? 2 fights later, he defeats Adrian Hernandez by 6-round TKO to capture the WBC 108-pound title, which was his first, right? This is after Adrian Hernandez was attempting to defend his title for the 8th time against Inoue. Now, let's back up. 2 fights earlier, he beats Ryuichi Taguchi, right? Who currently just defended the WBA title at 108 pounds for a 6th time, right? 2 fights later, he defeats Adrian Hernandez, who at the time he beat him had already defended the WBC 108-pound title 7 times. He defeated him by knockout, okay? 2 fights after that, he moves up 2 divisions. Vasyl Lomachenko only moved up 1 division, people. Inoue moves up 2 divisions and takes on... this shit is ridiculous. Takes on current WBO 115-pound champion Omar Narvaez and becomes the first fighter to knock him out, defeating him by knockout in the 2nd round. Now, Narvaez was also attempting his 8th consecutive title defense against Inoue at 115 pounds. Now, what a lot of niggas don't know about Omar Narvaez is he was considered one of the best fighters in the sport at 108 pounds. Omar Narvaez was the lineal champion, and he had about somewhere of like 11 title defenses. I didn't count, so you two go ahead and do that research for me. But he then moved up. He moved up to 118, right? Narvaez was the lineal champion at 112 pounds, fighting all comers. He skips 115 pounds, moves up, fights Nonito Donaire at 118, and that was his only loss because he fought the much bigger, much more powerful, much stronger Nonito Donaire. And by the way, Donaire did not knock him out. That famous left hook that has slept lots of motherfuckers out there, including the likes of Vic Darchinyan twice, right? He couldn't knock out the smaller, much smaller Omar Narvaez, right? That's why Narvaez was no longer the lineal champion at 112 because he vacated, okay? After the Narvaez fight, he goes down to 115, and his very next fight after losing to Narvaez becomes the WBO 115-pound champion and proceeds to have 7 title defenses, losing his belt to the great Inoue. Now, a lot of motherfuckers tried to say, oh, well, Narvaez wasn't a real contender at the time, and Inoue beat him. He was old. He was an old fighter. A lot of people forgot about him. Shut the fuck up. I just debunked that. He had 7 successful title defenses at 115 pounds before he lost to Inoue, clearly dominating the 115-pound division after successfully dominating the 112-pound division prior. Okay? Now, just those 3 fights alone makes my case that Vasyl Lomachenko does not have the resume of Inoue. Now, of course, I have not mentioned the C and B- level fighters that Inoue and Vasyl Lomachenko fought before and after, these guys, right? But it's irrelevant. You get their resume, you take the 3 best wins, right? And you compare and contrast, okay? Inoue has 3 guys who were dominant, right? One of them was considered one of the best fighters in the division when Inoue beat him. The other 2 were actually dominant fighters in their respective divisions when Inoue fought them, okay? Vasyl Lomachenko fought a guy that had an asterisk next to him that a lot of people thought was overhyped, and then he fought another guy who was on an 11-month layoff and gained an exorbitant amount of weight before taking the fucking fight, and also was coming off of a draw in his fight before that. And then he fought a guy who has 2 questionable WBO title captures, right, in that division, and who is clearly a B-level fighter who couldn't really win any of his fights against the best in the division, and Mikey Garcia and Ricky Burns. And then he should have lost the rematch to Orlando Salido. I mean, how do you not see that after I break that down? Oh! And by the way, Inoue also beat former 2-time 115-pound champion and highly respected fighter Kohei Kano. Now, I understand Kohei Kano was coming off a loss to Luis Concepcion, but Luis Concepcion, I believe, was ranked number 5 in the division by Ring Magazine. He was one of the best fighters in the division. And Kohei Kano actually had a good fight. He started off slow, was getting beat to the punch the first 6 rounds. And then the second half of the fight, he came on and started to come back. He was landing a lot of good shots on Concepcion, but he had lost too many of the earlier rounds that he ended up losing the fight. And then after that, he fought Inoue. But even Kano was still considered one of the best in the division. Of course, like I said, he's a former 2-time champion at that division. But I won't even mention him. We could take him off and just take the 3 previous fighters I mentioned. And he's clearly got the better resume, okay? He's already got the accolade of being a 2-time champion in 2 weight classes in under 10 fights. He did that before Vasyl Lomachenko, right? Now, I believe Vasyl Lomachenko is better skilled than Inoue because of the dynamics that he brings into the ring, right? But you got to understand, you have the variable in the equation that represents Vasyl Lomachenko losing to a certain style and Inoue staying undefeated. That is a huge variable in the equation that a lot of motherfuckers try to erase, and you cannot do it. It is an official loss, and we have still yet to see Vasyl Lomachenko defeat that style. So I might release my pound for pound ratings. You know what I'm saying? I definitely have Andre Ward above Vasyl Lomachenko. I definitely have Terrence Crawford above him. Okay. I have Guillermo Rigondeaux above him. All right. I have Inoue above him. Okay. And this is in no particular order. You know, I probably have Gennady Golovkin over him after his win over Danny Jacobs. I might. I'm not sure. I got to reevaluate that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I have Vasyl's in my top 10, but he's bottom 5. He's in the second part of the top 10. He's not in the top 5 for me, man. And it mainly boils down to his resume and the fact that he has a loss on his record and he has not avenged that loss. He doesn't have to beat Orlando Salido. Understand this. I think he should fight Orlando Salido because there's no better way to avenge the loss than to beat the guy you lost to, right? But if he can show us that he can beat the same type of style that he lost to, well, then that's just as good in my book. But he has yet to do that. So as long as that asterisk stays there, he cannot be in the top 5 unless those top 5 guys start taking L's and he just ends up surpassing them because they're taking L's and he's still winning. But as it is to date, Inoue is still undefeated. Terrence Crawford still undefeated, who in my opinion will become undisputed. The first undisputed champion since O'Neal Bell in 2006, and the first undisputed champion in 2000 and at 140 since 2001 when Costa Zoo made Zab Judah do the motherfucking chicken dance. You know what I'm saying? That definitely supersedes anything Vasyl Lomachenko has done. Okay? And then Andre Ward is still fucking undefeated with that ridiculous ass resume that he has. Alright? So he's got it. He's got to beat that style. I mean, bottom line. Alright? I just killed this shit, man. If y'all motherfuckers still can't see why Vasyl Lomachenko should not be considered at the very most top 3 pound for pound, if you're still, in awe because of your motherfucking fanboyism, give a nigga his credit for the word. You know what I'm saying? Your motherfucking fanboyism. I ain't got shit to talk about with you, man. There will be no debates. You know what I'm saying? This is how I slay casuals. I keep slaying these motherfuckers. And it will always happen. I'm getting to the point where I'm slaying so many motherfucking casuals, I'm starting to call boxing enthusiasts casuals. Word up. YouTube, do what you're doing in the comment section, man, but be real. Everybody, get your fucking knowledge up. You know what I'm saying? That goes to my subscribers, too, who don't know. And as long as you stay subscribed to my channel and you watch my videos, you can't help but to get your knowledge up. You know what I mean? But a lot of you fucking casuals out there, get your fucking knowledge up, man, before you speak on boxing and who's the best fighter out there. Do what you do in the comment section. Will be real. This is real talk for real fans. 1.